Hola, 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 mwah. Welcome back to my channel, my beloved cyber family. I'm the village princess and I'm back with a story time for you, my beloveds. Today's story is about Peter and Veronica. This is a couple that love each other very much, but their love is challenged by the consequences of the excessive use of alcohol, drugs, and mental health. I will be narrating this story as Peter, and I hope you do enjoy the story and learn something out of it. We grew up in the same neighborhood. I am 6 years older than Veronica. But that did not stop me from falling in love with her and dream of making her the mother of my children one day. I remember I used to watch her from across the road because our homes were opposite each other. Like when she would be coming back from school or when she would be hanging around with her friends. Sundays, that was my favorite because the whole family would be dressed up and go to church, and I'll be looking from my house to see what Veronica would be wearing. And because I was a few years older than her, that was just my secret. No one knew about my feelings towards her. I remember getting really upset when I found out about her first boyfriend because I always thought that that would be me. But the funny thing is that no one knew, not even Veronica, that I had feelings for her. I never had the courage to let her know. I was jealous, but of someone that had no clue of how I felt for her. And Veronica had a big personality. She was very loud and she was a fighter. Everybody knew her in the area, that she was the type of person that if you cross her or you cross somebody she likes, she was ready to fight physically, man or woman, you'll get it from her. But the thing is, her first boyfriend, that was Andre. Andre was completely different from most of the guys in the area, including me, because he was like very well educated, soft spoken, from a very good family, well respected family, nicely dressed. He didn't hang around with the guys in the area, he was always focused in his life and his things. But somehow they had something in common with Veronica because she fell pregnant very quickly. She moved in with him and his family. After they had the baby, they moved out of the neighborhood to the city. And for years, I didn't see my Veronica. I had to move on with my life. I started dating around. I dated few women here and there. I have two kids with two different ladies, but I never got married and I never stayed with any of them. Sometime years later, I'm hanging around the neighborhood. Oh, I moved out of my parents' home, but I still stayed in the same neighborhood. That day, I was hanging around with friends. It was a hot summer day, under the tree, chatting, drinking some beers. I look up and I see from far that that might be, looks like Veronica. I approached, greeted her, we started chatting, but this time Veronica did not look as bright and radiant as she used to, or as I remembered her. But we made plans and we started meeting very often and we started dating. And we were spending so much time together, everything looked perfect. But at this point, she was drinking heavily and smoking, but I didn't have a problem because I still loved her. But 3, 4 months down the line, Veronica disappeared without leaving trace, not telling me, not goodbye, no that, nothing. Somebody told me that she moved in with this other guy called Rafa. Actually, Rafa had his grandmother staying in the same neighborhood as us. He would come back and forth, but he never stayed there. They met in the city when she was staying there with Andre. They moved in together and she stayed with Rafa for some time. But this time, those two, they had more in common because Rafa was a heavy smoker and a heavy drinker and he was taking drugs. And that, for them, it was perfect because Veronica was all about that lifestyle. Alcoholic. I have a small workshop where I fix cars. Everybody knows me as the mechanic of the area. At some point, I heard that Veronica was back. Oh, my heart started pumping. I got so excited. I immediately went to her parents' home to see her. But this time, Veronica did not look like my beautiful Veronica that I used to know. She looked more frail, more fragile, more destroyed. And me and her family, we immediately arranged for her to go to a rehab. Thankfully, she was willing to go. She went to rehab and she was there for nearly a year because she really needed a lot of rehabilitation. When she came out of rehab, but while she was there, I would go and visit very often, so we rekindled our relationship. When she came out of rehab, I gave her a job in my workshop. She was dealing with the paperwork, and we got married. We moved to a new neighborhood, and she fell pregnant. Everything just happened very quickly. She fell pregnant, but everything changed after she gave birth. Veronica developed a heavy depression. She would lock herself in the room for days, dark, without opening the curtains. She didn't want to go out. She didn't want to talk to me. She didn't want to see anyone. She would be eating and leaving a plate in the room. And she will neglect the baby. She will be having conversations by herself, calling our daughter Little Andre. The minute she'll realize that that was not Little Andre, she'll get upset and throw the baby on the floor and wander around looking for Little Andre and calling out his father's name, which was Andre, and crying, screaming, banging, going out on the road. Sometimes she even get lost. I had to run after her all the time. I had to find someone to step in to help me with the child, because I couldn't handle it by myself anymore. Between looking after the baby, the workshop, and Veronica, it was too much for me. My mom stepped in to help. After years of me trying to manage her illness from home, I decided to get professional help. Veronica got admitted, and they called me for an interview, and they asked me if I knew of any trauma that Veronica had suffered in her life, so that they can understand and give her a diagnosis. And I told them the story that she told me many, many years ago about what happened with her and Andre. When they got to the city, Andre and Veronica, being young, they decided to experiment with alcohol, drugs, party life, everything. But Andre, because he was a guy which was focused from a young age, he did not get hooked. Veronica got hooked on all the things that she was trying, and the party life and the drugs and everything, to the point that Andre could not handle it anymore. He kept asking her to stop, but she couldn't stop anymore. One day he packs his bags and the child's bag, and he disappears without leaving trace. Veronica, end of the month comes, no money for rent. She gets kicked out of the flat. She goes from friend to friend, and that was when she moved back to her family home. The first time when I met her. It's been 22 years since she last saw Little Andre and Andre. She has no idea where they are. And today she's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I know it's not easy to deal with someone with such a type of mental health, but this is my Veronica, this is my wife. She's the love of my life, and I'm vowing never to give up on the love I have for her, and never to give up on her. Thank you for watching my story. I am the Village Princess, Iramani Spisik, and I'll see you on my next video. Goodbye. Goodbye. Mwah.